First blood. The research vessel Galileo drifted silently through the Kuiper belt, its sensors probing the darkness between the distant stars. Dr. Elena Santos stood at her research station, dark eyes fixed on the quantum scan readings that scrolled endlessly across her holographic display. After 6 months of searching, they'd finally found something that didn't belong. "Captain Roman," she called out, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "I think you need to see this." Captain Aisha Rahman moved from her command chair with the careful grace of someone who'd spent 2 decades in zero gravity. Her silver-streaked hair caught the light of the displays as she leaned over Santos's station. "Talk to me, Doctor." "The quantum signature is unlike anything in our database," Santos explained, highlighting a section of the readout. "It's not natural. The energy pattern suggests technology, but it's old. Very old." Rahman studied the data, her expression thoughtful. The Galileo was officially a civilian research vessel, searching for potential mining sites in the outer solar system. Unofficially, it carried some of the most advanced sensor technology humanity had ever developed. Technology that, by all official records, wouldn't exist for another 50 years. "How old are we talking about?" Rahman asked, though she suspected she already knew the answer. "Pre-human civilization old," Santos replied. "Millions of years, at least." The bridge crew fell silent. Humanity had been searching for proof of alien civilizations since they first looked up at the stars. Now, on what should have been a routine survey mission, they'd found it. "Plot a course," Rahman ordered, "but maintain our passive sensor profile. No active scans until we're closer." She turned to her communications officer. "Signal Earth Command. Priority Black Channel." The Galileo adjusted its trajectory with barely a whisper from its gravitic drives. To any observer, it would appear to be making a standard course correction, indistinguishable from the countless other mining vessels that worked the outer system. That was the point. As they approached the source of the quantum signature, the artifact came into view. It was a perfect sphere, roughly 10 meters in diameter, its surface covered in patterns that seemed to shift and change as they watched. It hung motionless against the star field, as if it had been waiting for them. "No electromagnetic emissions," Santos reported. "No radiation. No heat signature. But the quantum field it's generating. Captain, it's like nothing we've ever seen." The complexity suggests this was a beacon of some kind. Rahman felt a chill run down her spine. A beacon for who? Her answer came in the form of a massive distortion in space-time that bloomed like a dark flower 5,000 kilometers off their port bow. The vessel that emerged was beautiful in its alienness, all sweeping curves and impossible angles, its hull seeming to bend light around it. It was also larger than anything humanity had ever built. "Multiple contacts," the sensor officer shouted. 3. No, 5 more vessels emerging. Rahman's training took over. "Initiate Protocol 0. Purge all non-essential data. Dr. Santos, encrypt your findings and prepare for quantum burst transmission." The alien vessels moved with impossible speed, surrounding the Galileo in a perfect formation. A transmission cut through all their communication channels, the alien language somehow translated into perfect English. "Primitive vessel detected. Your species has found what you were not meant to find. The HFY Empire cannot allow such contamination to spread." Rahman's voice was steel as she hit the ship-wide comm. "All hands. This is the captain. You knew the risks when you signed up for this mission. It has been an honor." She turned to Santos. "Send the burst. Everything we've learned. Everything we've seen. Make it count." The Galileo's quantum transmitter powered up, preparing to send its message through a channel the aliens couldn't detect or block. They had seconds at most. "Your destruction will be swift," the alien voice announced. "Your species will be contained, as it should be. The natural order must be maintained." Rahman smiled, a fierce expression that would have worried anyone who knew her well. "The natural order. You have no idea what humanity is capable of." She turned to Santos. "Send it. Now." The quantum burst transmitted just as the alien weapons fired. In the last microsecond before the Galileo's destruction, Raman had one final thought. They think they're containing us. They don't realize they're waking us up. The Galileo exploded in a brief, brilliant flash that quickly faded in the vacuum of space. The Nexari vessels lingered only long enough to confirm the destruction was complete before vanishing back into their space-time distortions, confident they had eliminated a potential threat before it could develop. Deep beneath the surface of Mars, in a facility that didn't officially exist, a quantum receiver activated. Data streamed in, sensor readings of the artifact, specifications of the Nexari vessels, their weapons, their capabilities. Most importantly, proof that humanity was not alone in the universe, and their first contact had been hostile. General Victor Chen stood in the heart of Project Shadowfall's command center, watching as the data from the Galileo's final transmission was analyzed. His expression was grim but determined as he opened a secure channel to Earth's unified military command. This is General Chen. Implementation of the Artemis Protocol is now authorized. Security classification Ultra Black. He paused, looking at the holographic display of the Nexari vessels. They think they caught us unprepared. It's time to show them why that was their first mistake. Across the solar system, hidden facilities began to power up. Ships that existed only in the deepest of black projects began to emerge from their quantum-shielded berths. Humanity had been preparing for this moment for longer than anyone suspected. The Nexari Empire thought they were dealing with a primitive species that needed to be contained. They were about to learn just how wrong they were. The hidden edge. The command center beneath Olympus Mons hummed with activity as Earth's military leadership assembled via quantum-secure holograms. General Chen stood before them, his weathered features illuminated by the massive tactical display showing the last known position of the Galileo. Ladies and gentlemen, Chen began, for 50 years, we've maintained the greatest deception in human history. While the public sees a space program still struggling with chemical rockets, we've been building something else entirely. He gestured, and the tactical display shifted to reveal a hidden shipyard, carved into the dark side of Titan. Fleet Admiral Sarah O'Connor's hologram leaned forward, her Irish accent thick with emotion. How many ships are actually ready, Victor? 317 vessels of various classes, Chen replied. All equipped with quantum phase drives, neural-linked combat systems, and dark matter shielding. The Nexari scan our system, see our public space force, and think we're centuries behind them. They have no idea we've had quantum phase technology for decades. And you're certain they can't detect the Shadow Fleet? Asked Admiral Zhao, his Beijing office visible behind his hologram. Chen's response was interrupted by a priority alert. A junior officer rushed forward with a quantum pad. Sir, we're detecting multiple Nexari vessels entering the Kuiper Belt. They're beginning a systematic sweep of the system. The assembled leadership fell silent. This was the moment they'd prepared for, but the reality of it still felt surreal. They're looking for more artifacts, Chen said, studying the sensor data, and making sure we don't have any other primitive vessels out there that might have seen something we shouldn't. Admiral O'Connor's hologram flickered as she accessed additional data. The Galileo's final transmission included detailed scans of their technology. Their ships are impressive, but they rely heavily on conventional space-time manipulation. They have no defense against quantum phase attacks because they don't believe that level of technology is possible for younger species. That's their weakness, Chen agreed. They're so convinced of their technological superiority that they don't look for alternatives. They don't realize that humanity took a different path. The tactical display updated again, showing the positions of Earth's hidden fleet, scattered throughout the solar system, concealed by quantum fields and the clever use of dimensional folding. Humanity's real space force waited. The Artemis Protocol was designed for exactly this scenario, Chen continued. We knew first contact might be hostile. We knew we needed an edge they wouldn't expect. That's why we focused our research on technologies that would be invisible to conventional detection. He brought up the specifications of the Shadow Fleet's lead vessel, the UES Nightshade. Unlike the utilitarian designs of Earth's public ships, the Nightshade was a marvel of engineering. Its quantum phase drive allowed it to exist partially out of normal spacetime, making it virtually invisible to standard sensors. Its dark matter shields could absorb virtually any conventional energy weapon, and its neural-linked combat systems allowed its crew to react at speeds that would be impossible with traditional controls. We have 5 task forces positioned strategically throughout the system, Chen explained. Each ship is equipped with quantum torpedoes, weapons that bypass conventional shields by shifting partially into another dimension before detonation. The Nexari won't know they're under attack until it's too late. Admiral Zhou's expression was grim. And you're certain these weapons will be effective? The Galileo's scans confirmed it. The Nexari's dimensional shielding technology is actually inferior to ours in many ways. They focused on brute force approaches, while we were forced to think creatively, to find ways around conventional limitations. A new alert flashed across the tactical display. The Nexari fleet was expanding its search pattern, moving methodically closer to the inner solar system. They're being thorough, O'Connor noted. They want to be certain they've contained any potential threat before they move on. Chen's lips curved in a slight smile. Their thoroughness works in our favor. It gives us time to position our forces optimally. He turned to address the full assembly. Ladies and gentlemen, I suggest we proceed with Phase 1 of the Artemis Protocol. We'll let them think they're being clever. Let them think they're containing a primitive species. Then we'll show them exactly why humanity has survived every challenge we've ever faced. The assembled leaders nodded in agreement. Orders were transmitted through quantum-encrypted channels to the hidden fleet. Across the solar system, crews who had trained for years in secret began powering up systems that officially didn't exist. Aboard the Nightshade, Captain Maya Chen, no relation to the general, stood on her bridge, watching as her crew prepared for humanity's first real space battle. The neural interface at the base of her skull tingled as she connected to the ship's systems, feeling the vessel become an extension of her own body. All hands, she announced, her voice carrying through the ship's quantum comm system. This is the moment we've trained for. The Nexari think they're dealing with a primitive species that needs to be contained. We're about to show them that humanity has teeth they never imagined. The Nightshade's quantum drive hummed to life, the ship shifting partially out of normal spacetime as it prepared to move. Across the solar system, hundreds of other vessels did the same, their crews ready, their weapons armed. The Haelor Empire was about to learn that sometimes the most dangerous predator is the one you don't see coming. Turning the tables. The Nexari battle group moved through the Kuiper Belt with methodical precision, their sensors sweeping for any sign of human activity. Fleet Commander Vex Terry stood on the command deck of the Imperial vessel Dominant Truth, his 4 eyes scanning the tactical displays with the confidence of someone who had never lost a battle. "Status report on the containment operation," he commanded, his translator converting his harmonic speech into crisp English for the benefit of their intelligence gatherers. "Proceeding as expected, Commander," his second replied. "We've mapped 70% of their system. No signs of significant technological development beyond their inner planets. Their primitive vessels continue normal mining and transport operations, unaware of our presence." Vex Terry's facial scales shifted in what passed for a smile among his kind. "Good. Once we've confirmed their technological limitations, we can proceed with the quarantine protocol. The artifact they found was meant for species ready to join the galactic community. They clearly need another few centuries of development." The tactical officer's sudden sharp intake of breath drew his attention. "Commander, we're detecting an anomaly in the quantum field surrounding Ship 7. "Specify anomaly," Vex Terry demanded, but before the officer could respond, Ship 7 vanished from their sensors. Not destroyed, simply gone, as if it had never existed. "Impossible," Vex Terry breathed. "Check for sensor malfunction." "Sensors functioning normally, Commander." Ship 7 is. Wait. The tactical display flickered. Multiple quantum distortions detected. They're not coming from normal space. The space around the Nexari fleet seemed to ripple, like heat waves over desert sand. The UES Nightshade materialized less than 1,000 kilometers from the dominant truth, its quantum phase drive allowing it to slip through the dimensional barriers as easily as a fish through water. Nexari vessels. Captain Maya Chen's voice cut through their communication channels. This is the United Earth Defense Force. You have violated sovereign human space, attacked a civilian research vessel, and demonstrated hostile intent toward our species. In accordance with interstellar law, we are now exercising our right to self-defense. Vexteri's scales darkened with rage. Impossible. Your species doesn't have this level of technology. Our intelligence is perfect. Your intelligence, Chen replied calmly, is exactly what we wanted you to have. The Nightshade's quantum torpedoes launched before Vexteri could respond. The weapons phased through the Nexari's dimensional shields as if they weren't there, detonating inside the hull of their nearest vessel. The ship didn't explode. It simply ceased to exist in normal spacetime. Its component atoms scattered across multiple dimensions. All ships, battle formation. Vexteri commanded, but his fleet was already under attack from multiple vectors. Human vessels appeared and disappeared at will, their quantum phase drives making them impossible to track or target effectively. The UES Phantom, under Captain John Rivera, executed a maneuver that should have torn any normal ship apart, its quantum field allowing it to briefly exist in multiple locations simultaneously. Nexari energy weapons passed harmlessly through projected images, while quantum torpedoes struck their real targets with devastating precision. Their shields are useless against our weapons, Rivera reported through the quantum network linking the human fleet. They've never encountered anything that could bypass their dimensional barriers. In the Mars Command Center, General Chen watched the battle unfold with grim satisfaction. They based their entire defense doctrine on the assumption that younger species would develop technology along the same lines they did. They never considered we might find a completely different approach. The Nexari fleet's perfect formation had devolved into chaos. Their weapons, designed to engage targets in normal spacetime, proved nearly useless against ships that could phase between dimensions at will. Their sensors, calibrated to detect conventional energy signatures, struggled to track vessels that barely existed in normal space. Commander. The Nexari tactical officer's voice had risen several octaves. 3 more human squadrons detected. They're using some kind of quantum entanglement to coordinate their attacks. Our countermeasures are ineffective. Vexteri watched in horror as his fleet was systematically dismantled by an enemy that, according to every intelligence report, shouldn't have even mastered basic fusion technology yet. How? He demanded. How did they develop this level of technology without us detecting it? The answer came from Captain Chen, her voice carrying a hint of satisfaction. We learned long ago that sometimes the best defense is to let your enemies underestimate you. While you watched our public space program struggle with chemical rockets, we were developing technologies you never even thought to look for. Another Nexari vessel vanished from existence as quantum torpedoes bypassed its shields. The remaining ships attempted to retreat, their spacetime drives powering up, but the human vessels had already anticipated this move. Target their drive systems, Chen ordered. Don't let them report back to their empire. Not yet. The battle lasted less than 20 minutes. When it was over, the proud Nexari battle group had been reduced to 3 severely damaged vessels, their crews watching in shock as human ships materialize all around them, quantum weapons primed. Now then, Captain Chen's voice carried across all frequencies, I believe it's time we had a serious discussion about humanity's place in the galaxy. And this time, you're going to listen. In the Mars Command Center, General Chen allowed himself a small smile. Phase 1 complete, he announced to Earth's leadership. The Nexari now know we're not as primitive as they thought. The question is, How will their empire react when they learn they've awakened a sleeping giant? The answer to that question would reshape the balance of power in the galaxy. But for now, humanity had proven something crucial. Sometimes the most dangerous species aren't the ones with the biggest ships or the most advanced public technology. Sometimes, the most dangerous species are the ones wise enough to hide their true strength until the perfect moment to strike. The Invisible Armada. In the Grand Chamber of the Nexeri High Command, Supreme Admiral Kavoth watched the battle footage for the 12th time. The destruction of their elite containment fleet seemed no less impossible with each viewing. Around the circular table, the Empire's highest-ranking military leaders sat in stunned silence. "Play it again," Kavoth ordered, his scales shifting to a deep blue of concern. "Focus on their phase transition signatures." The holographic display showed human vessels appearing from seemingly nowhere, their quantum drives leaking ripples in spacetime that defied conventional physics. Each attack was precisely calculated, exploiting weaknesses in Nexeri defenses that no young species should have been able to identify, let alone target. "The humans," Kavoth announced, "are not what we thought they were." In Earth's solar system, humanity's hidden fleet was already on the move. The UES Nightshade led a task force of 40 ships through the quantum void between normal space, their presence undetectable by conventional sensors. Captain Maya Chen felt the familiar tingle of the neural interface as it fed tactical data directly into her consciousness. "All vessels maintain quantum coherence," she ordered through the fleet's entangled communication network. "We've identified 3 major Nexeri outposts in this sector. Remember your training. They can't fight what they can't see." General Chen's voice came through the quantum link from Mars Command. "The Nexeri are scrambling their forces. Long-range sensors show they're mobilizing their entire defense fleet. They still don't understand what they're dealing with." Intelligence gathered from the captured Nexeri vessels had revealed the Empire's fatal flaw. Their entire military doctrine was based on overwhelming force and superior technology. They had no concept of strategic deception on this scale, no defense against an enemy that had deliberately hidden their true capabilities for decades. The first Nexeri outpost never saw the attack coming. Quantum torpedoes phased through their strongest shields, materializing inside critical systems. The massive defense platforms, designed to repel conventional assaults, proved useless against weapons that simply ignored the laws of normal spacetime. "Target neutralized," Captain Rivera reported from the Phantom. "No transmissions got out. They still think they're dealing with a localized problem." Across the sector, other human task forces struck with similar precision. Ships that officially didn't exist emerged from quantum space to deliver devastating attacks before vanishing again, leaving confused and terrified Nexeri crews unable to explain how a primitive species had bypassed their most advanced defenses. In the Nexeri High Command, the tactical display was a chaos of emergency signals and lost contact reports. "Impossible," one of the admirals muttered. "They're attacking simultaneously across 1,000 light years. Their ships would need to be faster than light itself." "No," Kavoth corrected, his scales now white with revelation. "They're not traveling through normal space at all. We've been looking for their fleet in the wrong dimensions." A junior officer burst into the chamber, his scales flickering between colors of panic and disbelief. "Supreme Admiral, we've lost contact with the Helios Defense Array. All 30 stations. They're just gone." The Helios Array had been the pride of Nexeri military engineering, a network of battle stations that could destroy entire fleets. Now it had been eliminated without firing a single shot in its own defense. Back in the Sol system, Admiral O'Connor's hologram appeared in Mars Command. "Phase 2 is complete. The Nexeri's outer defense perimeter has been neutralized. Their remaining forces are consolidating around their core worlds." General Chen nodded, studying the tactical display showing the true extent of humanity's deployment. 300 ships, divided into precise strike teams, systematically dismantling an empire that had stood for 10,000 years. "They're finally beginning to understand." Have all task forces proceed to Phase 3. The UES Nightshade emerged from quantum space near the Nexary's primary shipyard, leading a formation of 60 vessels. Captain Chen watched as the massive construction facilities came into view, and the 500 Nexary warships assembled to protect them. "This is Captain Chen to all ships," she transmitted. "Remember what they did to the Galileo. Remember why we spent 50 years preparing for this moment. Execute attack pattern Omega." The human fleet split into precisely coordinated groups, their quantum drives allowing them to exist partially in multiple locations simultaneously. Nexary targeting systems, designed to track objects in normal spacetime, went haywire trying to lock onto ships that seemed to flicker in and out of reality. Their entire strategic doctrine is based on being the most advanced civilization in known space, Chen commented to her bridge crew. They never developed countermeasures for quantum phase technology because they never imagined anyone would develop it differently than they did. The battle that followed would be studied in military academies for centuries to come. Human ships danced through dimensions, their quantum torpedoes bypassing the strongest Nexary shields while their own dark matter defenses absorbed any lucky hits from the increasingly desperate alien fleet. In the high command chamber, Kvoth watched the systematic destruction of their greatest shipyard with a growing sense of dread. "We didn't contain them," he realized aloud. "We didn't even see them. All this time, we thought we were watching a primitive species take its first steps into space." "Supreme Admiral," his aide interrupted, scales nearly white with fear. "We're detecting quantum phase signatures approaching the homeworld. Hundreds of them." Kvoth's 4 eyes closed briefly. The Empire had made a mistake, not just in attacking the humans, but in assuming they knew everything about how technology should develop. Now they were paying the price for their arrogance. "Send the signal," he ordered, "to all forces, all outposts, all ships. Fall back to the homeworld." And he paused, his scales shifting to the deep green of resignation, prepare to transmit a request for diplomatic contact. The humans had done more than develop advanced technology. They had demonstrated a truth that the Nexary Empire had forgotten over its 10,000 years of dominance. Sometimes the most dangerous predator isn't the one with the biggest weapons or the most advanced technology. Sometimes it's the one patient enough to wait for the perfect moment to strike. A new understanding. The Nexary homeworld of Primax hung like a jewel in space, its crystalline cities refracting starlight in complex patterns. Around it, the remainder of the once mighty Imperial fleet formed a defensive sphere, 10,000 ships prepared to make their last stand. Supreme Admiral Kvoth stood in the Planetary Defense Center, watching as quantum phase signatures began appearing at the edge of their sensor range. The human fleet materialized from quantum space in perfect formation. 300 ships, their dark matter shields rippling with contained energy, their quantum drives humming in frequencies that made Nexary sensors scream in protest. At their head, the UES Nightshade took position directly before the Nexary defense line. "This is Captain Maya Chen of the United Earth Defense Force," her transmission cut across all frequencies. "Your empire has seen what we're capable of. You know we can bypass your strongest defenses, but we're not here to destroy you." In Mars Command, General Chen watched the confrontation through quantum-linked sensors. "Send the package," he ordered. The Nightshade transmitted a massive data burst to the Nexary command. Kvoth's scales shifted through a rainbow of colors as he processed what he was seeing. Detailed scans of ancient artifacts scattered throughout human space, quantum physics research that went far beyond what the Nexary had achieved, and most surprisingly, evidence of other advanced civilizations watching from the shadows. "You knew," Kvoth transmitted back. "You knew about the others." "Of course we did," Captain Chen replied. "Did you really think humanity developed quantum phase technology by accident? We found our first artifact 300 years ago. We knew we weren't alone, and we knew that sooner or later, someone would come to judge whether we were ready for the galactic community." General Chen's voice joined the transmission. "Your empire isn't the first to discover us. Admiral Kivov. You're just the first to make the mistake of attacking us. The others were content to watch and wait. The tactical display showed more quantum phase signatures appearing. But these weren't human vessels. Ships of bizarre and beautiful designs emerged from dimensional space, their technology clearly as advanced as anything the Nexari had ever seen. The observers were finally revealing themselves. You see, Captain Chen continued, humanity learned something important very early in our development. The galaxy is full of ancient, powerful civilizations. Some, like yours, believe they have the right to judge and contain younger species. Others prefer to watch and evaluate. We decided to take a different approach. Kavoth's scales had settled into a deep blue of understanding. You hid your true capabilities from everyone. We developed our technology in secret, General Chen confirmed. We let everyone see what they expected to see. A young species struggling with primitive rockets and basic spaceflight, all while we prepared for the day someone would try to contain us, subjugate us, or destroy us. The observing vessels took up positions around the standoff, their presence a clear message to both sides. This conflict and its resolution would have implications far beyond humanity and the Nexari Empire. We're transmitting terms for peace, Captain Chen announced. They're quite reasonable, considering the circumstances. The Nexari Empire will acknowledge humanity's sovereign space, including our colonial territories. You will share your technological database with us, as we will share ours with you. Though you'll find we have more to offer than you expected. Kavoth studied the terms, his tactical mind already seeing the deeper implications, and the containment protocol. The Empire's duty to guide younger species will be reformed, General Chen replied, into a cooperative program of mutual advancement. No more unilateral judgments, no more forced containment. The galaxy is changing, Admiral. The age of empires imposing their will on primitive species is over. In the following hours, as the peace treaty took shape, representatives from the observing civilizations finally made contact. Some had been watching humanity for centuries. Others had been monitoring the Nexari Empire's expansion with growing concern. All of them had been waiting to see how this confrontation would play out. Humanity has shown us all something important, one of the observers transmitted. The mark of true civilization isn't the ability to dominate others. It's the wisdom to know when to show strength and when to hide it. The Nexari Empire signed the treaty, their 10,000 years of unquestioned dominance, ended not by a superior force, but by a species that had simply been smart enough to play a longer game. As the human fleet prepared to return to Earth, Captain Chen had one final message for the Nexari. The galaxy is larger and more complex than any of us imagined, she transmitted. Perhaps now we can all stop pretending to be gods and start learning from each other instead. The UES Nightshade led the fleet into quantum space, leaving behind a changed galaxy. The age of empires judging the worth of younger species was over. The age of cooperation, however cautious and carefully negotiated, had begun. In Mars Command, General Chen watched the fleet's return with satisfaction. Send word to the development teams, he ordered. It's time to begin Phase 2. Sir, his aide asked. I thought the operation was complete. Chen smiled. The Nexari incident is resolved, yes, but humanity didn't spend 300 years hiding our capabilities just to deal with one empire. We've only revealed what we needed to. After all, he turned to look at the tactical display, showing hundreds of other civilizations watching from the shadows. You never know who else might be out there, making assumptions about primitive species. The human fleet vanished into quantum space, leaving behind a galaxy that would never again underestimate the quiet ones, the Watchers, the species wise enough to know that sometimes the best strategy is to let your potential adversaries think they're the ones in control. The age of empires was over. The age of humanity had begun.